I'm having a day where everything is really flared up, pelvis hurts, diaphragm in particular, bottom of the rib cage is very, very sore, right side of the chest, right shoulder especially, and my left hip and my left leg. So this is proper like real time, not feeling good. So let's see what we can do. We're actually going to start standing today. Unless you prefer to sit, you could sit as well. So just finding a little bit of space. We'll have feet about hip distance apart and just think crown of the head towards the ceiling. So you're just growing a little bit taller there without kind of flaring out through the ribs there. So just drawing the rib cage in ever so slightly, pulling the belly button in towards your body, that tiniest little bit, nothing too tense. And then just relaxing arms by side of the body. Take a nice deep breath. Find the rib cage expands to the side. And then we're just going to draw shoulders up towards the ears. And then as you breathe out, letting them sink. I'll show you from the back as well. Deep breath. And exhale. I'm going to do about 6. If you've got anything like subluxing shoulders, or even just holding a lot of tension in your shoulders, your upper back, your neck, try not to really force that too tight, just gentle. And we have 3, 2, and final 1. And then from there, starting with whatever arm you're more comfortable with, taking the arm and lengthening it to the ceiling without the shoulder and the ear closing together. So you don't want to be like this, you want to keep this space here. Take a breath, and I'll lean over to the side so you can find that stretch through the side of the body, breathing out. And just alternating left and right. If you don't want your arm completely overhead, you could do it with maybe a bent elbow, or just keeping the arms low if that's better for you. And whichever you've chosen, be really careful as you bend to the side that your hips and your pelvis doesn't kind of pop out over here. We don't want it to look like this, okay? Think of stabilising here. So it is a pelvic and hip stability exercise. Finding the stretch without losing that tension. Whatever position suits you, alternating left and right. Remember, arms can just be low. I'm going to go for 5, 4, 3, and then final 2, and last one. Okay, next one here can also be done from a seated position if you prefer. It's a movement called a roll down. It ends up with the back in quite a lot of flexion, quite a lot of rounding. Super important. You have to just go as far down as you feel individually comfortable, okay? I want you to think, imagine that you're against a wall and you're peeling one vertebrae away from the wall, kind of one at a time. That's very much what I want you to think about. Actually, I'll do this side on. Feet again, hip distance apart, or if you're seated, just sit with a little gap into your legs. Same with kneeling. Arms are just going to hang. I want you to think starting tall without sticking the bum out, without sticking the ribs out. So we're slightly drawn in through the ribs and the belly. Take a deep breath. Think of peeling the back away from the wall by nodding the chin towards the chest first, and then just let all tension go in the neck. And then almost trying to picture peeling the upper back away from a wall. The arms kind of just hang loose. And that might be enough for you. Doesn't matter how low you go. If I'm typically doing this, I end up quite sort of hungover. Wherever you are, pause at your end point. Could be here, could be further up. And then I want you to just draw the belly button in towards your body and engage in that front of your core a little bit stronger. Take a deep breath. Keep your core engaged until you've restacked. And the last thing to come up would be the head. So you're just going to go again in your own time. We're only going to do about another 3, not too many here. Deep breath to prep. Chin comes towards the chest. Arms kind of just hang forward. I'm sliding the vertebrae. Nice and slowly. Just be careful you're not locked out in your knees if you're going quite low, so you don't want your knees hyperextending, pushing behind you. Whenever you're happy that you've gone far enough, pause, deep breath, draw the belly button in towards your body. So we're trying to kind of teach the body to give some support from the front of your core as you're flexing and rounding the back. So it's really good build up for strength for things like, I don't know, going down to reach something or grabbing a shopping bag or something. We'll go for 2. So nice and slowly breathing out. Pause when you find the end point. Be careful you don't have any lower back pain. If you do, you've gone too low. Draw the belly into the body. You've paused, taken another breath. And then we're restacking. We've got a last one here. Chin nods. Remember, you don't need to go very far at all. It might just be that tiny bit of flexion and rounding in the upper back. You can go lower down only if that feels okay for you. Pause, nice deep breath. Draw the belly button into the body no matter where you've gone to. Shoulders then draw back. Vision comes tall. Alrighty, you might need to hold onto a wall on this next bit if you feel a little bit wobbly. I want you to still keep that feeling of drawing the belly button in. And we're going to march the legs. We're going to breathe out as we lift. And I want you to think of imagining you're lifting your leg from your core. So if you're quite wobbly, I don't want you to be too wobbly. You can always place one hand on a wall. And again, similar to when we were doing side bends, I want you to be really careful that as you lift the leg, you're not kind of like all a bit kind of skew whiff in your midsection. So you're stable here. If you don't need to hold a wall, you could always hold here. Knee is coming no higher than hip height. And you don't have to make it that high. You could just make it so that you're lifting onto your tippy toes. Your leg doesn't even fully come off the floor. If you're seated, this is fine to do from just legs and feet coming away from the floor rather than standing from the floor. Now we're just going to take 4. Remember the belly button slightly drawn in. 3. Final 2. And last one. We have one more exercise from this position. You can do this from kneeling on the floor if you prefer. This is an exercise I used a lot in my recovery from thoracic surgeries. So just make sure your hands are clean before a little disclaimer. We're going to have hands placed on a surface, a wall. If you don't want to get your wall grubbing, maybe lean against a towel or something like that. So fingertips are spread wide. We do a standing push-up. So again, just be careful you're not sticking your bum out. You don't want your ribs flaring out, so think of drawing the rib cage kind of into your body, belly button in. Be careful you're not standing too far away from your wall. That would be quite intense. The closer you are, the more comfortable it is. So I'm going to shuffle forward to start with. Fingertips are spread, they're just, the hands and the palms are slightly below the shoulders. So when you're leveling, you don't want this. I'm going to drop a little bit lower, much safer for the shoulders. Then think, almost imagine you're in a plank. Well, you kind of are. I'm going to turn the fingers slightly inwards, keeping the elbows close to the side of the body, and just let the weight come forward. Take a breath and breathe out. Now, if that's quite easy, just have a little check-in that your core feels engaged. You should almost feel like the whole body is kind of moving into it, rather than like coming forward but leaving your bum sticking out, anything like that. And if it's too easy, that's where you can walk your feet back to make it more challenging. Elbows tuck low. So as you're continuing to press forward and back, I want you to make sure your elbows aren't up here. It's not as safe and not as stable for the shoulders. So hands below shoulders, elbows are tucked low as if they're swooping past the waist. And we're just going to go for 4. Breathe in and out. 3. 2. And final 1. Perfect. And I just want you to give your little wrists a quick roll, and then we're going to move to being on the floor. So you might want to have a yoga mat or a towel or something like that to lean on, and we'll transfer down onto the floor. So first up, I hope you guys can see this okay. I've now got the sun all of a sudden. Alrighty, so we're going to be transitioning to being on your right hand side, okay? And what we're going to try and do is be propped up. You've got the choice of being on your forearm or your wrist. Either of those are okay. Legs are bent. Think of stacking the hips, so be really careful this top hip especially isn't kind of rolling back behind you. And legs bent and together. So what we're going to do from there is focus on this bottom waist. You can have this left hand, line on the right side, you've got your left hand free on your hip, up to the ceiling, placed on floor if you feel wobbly. And I want you to think of just letting this right side kind of drop towards the floor. See the shoulders come to the ear, the bottom waist has dropped. What we're going to do is take a breath and pick this waist up. Let it sink. Pick it up. Let it sink. Take a breath. Pick it up. Now if you're finding that too easy, you could do this by lifting up into the hips. Now to do this, I've moved the feet more in line with my bum. I'm now going to use this left hand. Still same thing. Start with it almost drop towards the floor. Take a breath. And then we lift. And if you don't need the left hand, could be here or here. Remember, you do not have to lift the hip. You could just let the waist drop and pick it up. So wherever you are, we're going to try and do about 4. Take a breath, let it drop. Pick it up from the floor or pick it up and lift. We have 3. 2. Last one. If you're doing this progression, you're going to find this right shoulder starts hurting a little bit. So for that reason, we're going to take a quick rest and come off this shoulder and support the head. We're then going to straighten the top leg, but angle it slightly forward, only slightly. So if there was in line with my waist, and then just pulling it slightly ahead of the front of the mat. I then want you to point the toes, so we've got a little bit more length. And we're going to start drawing tiny little circles. Doesn't matter which direction. Now with this bottom waist on the right side, be careful you're not kind of sagging down into your mat. I want you to think of just slightly lifting this top waist. I'm going to think of drawing around something the size of a tennis ball. Nice and slow. Trying to take those deep breaths into the side of the ribs, back of the ribs. We're going to pause, change direction, make it small still. We're just going 8, 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, rest. We are going to reposition a final time to being propped up or propped up, either is fine. And then we're going to lift up. So that kind of picking up of the waist we did before, that's where we're going to start. We're going to take the left hand to the ceiling, relax that left shoulder slightly, take a breath. Your vision's going to go to this left hand, and then we're going to breathe out, almost as if you're trying to tuck it under this right armpit. Breathe in, we go to the ceiling. We're just doing 5, 4, 3. Doesn't matter how far you twist into this, okay? 2. If you have slipping rib syndrome, so subluxing ribs, definitely keep that small and finish here rather than twist it too far. Okay, and then that will probably start feeling quite heavy on that right shoulder. Give it a slight roll, and then we're going to come pretty much straight to the other side. So propped up either onto your left elbow or your left hand if you prefer. And remember your options here, so we're just going to let this bottom, now the left rib cage, drop to the floor. Take a breath, pick it up. We just drop into the ribs, pick it up. Remember your options with your right hand. It could be down here, could be here, could be up to the ceiling, and if you want to make the move, it is a big jump up in my opinion, but you could start thinking about dropping down, and as well as picking the rib cage up, lifting into the hips slightly. But that is optional. It may not be for you. It does suddenly start feeling quite strong on the shoulder. So you can just choose whatever feels best for you. You still get that kind of movement through the obliques, the side of the ribs into the waist. And we're just going to go for 3 wherever you are. So remember, it might be small, 2, and 1. And then from there, that's when we're going to transition down. Just give that shoulder a quick rest. I'm just going to slide slightly up this way. Make sure you're fully supporting the head so your neck can just relax. We then straighten the top leg. So remember, it's angled slightly forward, so slightly ahead of your bottom leg. Toes are pointed. Remember, you're drawing around something the size of a tennis ball. We breathe out. Have a quick check-in of this bottom waist. You don't want it sagging completely to the mat. So almost think of like tickling your fingers underneath that waist. We're just going for 2, 1, pause, reverse for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rest that top leg, reposition up. Okay, right hand comes to ceiling. We're going to keep this bottom, this left waist, that left side of the ribcage lifted. We breathe out, we tuck under. Remember, you're twisting as far as you feel comfortable. I have had diaphragm surgery this side, so it feels significantly more challenging. So it almost feels like this is too tight from the resection. It's quite uncomfortable. However, the movement here, I wish I had a comparison to show you actually. It is moving a lot further than it did post-op. So remember, if you want to go that little bit further, you could always do it with the hips up. It feels much, much stronger. Or it might be you do a little bit of both. Either is okay. And we just got 3, 2, and last one here. And relax the movement, just want you to, you might even prefer to come up to a full kneeling position. Okay, before we start the next section, I'm just going to give you a moment to go and grab a, well, if you have a resistance band, that might be useful, or a small hand towel would do as well, which is what I'm going to demonstrate with. So we'll be back in one moment. Okay. So I've just got a little hand towel, just rolled it up. As I said, if you have resistance bands at home, they will do fine. I'm going to use a towel because I feel like everybody will have a towel or a tea towel. And a little disclaimer, when we're starting to hold on to the towel, I'm going to give you cues at times to just slightly tug onto it. Please don't tug so hard that you are ripping your equipment, your things at home, okay? So just be a little bit careful. Let me think, all of these exercises, you could kneel, you could sit on a chair, you could stand, yes, you could stand, or you could sit on your mat or whatever. So any of those are okay. So I'm going to choose cross-legged. So to begin with, actually let me show you this way. I want you to think of pulling the shoulder blades down towards your bum slightly, not so tense that it hurts, but just drawing them down so we haven't got this closed gap here. We're nice and open through the kind of ear, neck, top of the shoulder. I'm going to go arms fully extended, palms to the floor. This is where you can just imagine you're trying to pull your towel or your resistance band slightly apart. So you're just creating a little bit of tension there. We're going to take a breath. We're nice and tall in the back. So you don't want to be doing this from here. Lengthen up. Try not to stick the rib cage out. Draw the rib cage in. Draw the belly button in. Core is switched on. Take a breath. And then keep sliding the shoulder blades down towards your bum as you pull your towel, or whatever you're using, towards your body. It's a little bit like the push-up we did standing, but in reverse. Shoulder blades slide down, belly buttons drawn in, we draw in. And if it doesn't feel like you're doing very much, you might want to just start your hands a little bit closer together so you can kind of grip and imagine that you're pulling apart your towel a little bit stronger. And this is exactly the sort of move that I did whilst I was in hospital as an inpatient with chest drains in place. It's probably not quite this level. And we're just going to go for 3, 2, last one. Have a quick rest, and you'll probably find your shoulders start getting a little bit achy. Pause the video as long as you need, come back to it. Do it in little sections, it doesn't all have to be done in one go. So, depending on how that last exercise felt, we'll go into the next part. I'm going to give you options with this because it does start feeling a little bit heavy around the shoulders. So I've now gone back to quite a wide hand position. Again, I'm just drawing the shoulder blades slightly down. I'm not pulling and tugging as hard, slightly, but not as much as before. I'm going to draw it slightly in, not as far, and then I want you to imagine that you're kind of showing your palms of your hands forward. You find your resistance band or your towel or whatever you're using will come towards your forehead and release all the way. I'm drawing in just part way, so it's coming nowhere near towards the chest, and then turning the forearms towards you, palms towards you, and I'm opening shoulders. Now if that feels too strong, which it might, Do it without anything and it'll kind of look like this, the elbows back. Remember the elbows are below the shoulders. Here, still quite a strong move. And if that's too strong, alternate. You do one left, one right, and you'll continue to just work like that. So any of those options are good. Remember, it doesn't have to be with your resistance band or towel. We've only got 2 left, so if you're doing this single sides, 1 more left, 1 more right. And we'll make this next one final time. Again, just have a quick pause. It can feel quite nice to just give shoulders a gentle roll or a little sort of shrug. Alright, so I'm going to use the towel one final time. This time I'm going to bring the towel behind me. Palms of the hands are now facing backwards. You might actually find doing this, I'll show you both, but you might find it a little bit more comfortable being, say, partially kind of kneeling or even high kneeling. Standing is fine too. You just might not have as much space if you're sat, so just keep that in mind. So you don't want your kind of hands and your arms all catching on the ground. Tall spine, draw the ribs in, draw the belly in, palms are facing back. I've almost got the hands slightly behind the shoulders. I'm tugging into my towel ever so slightly and I'm breathing out. For those of you that are hypermobile, please do not end up all the way over here, okay? Because you tend to lose your core and your control and your stability around the rib cage and thoracic spine. So even if you're hypermobile and you know you can go loads further, I don't want you to. Slight engagement through your core, breathe out. Shouldn't need to go much further than this. Breathe in to lower, breathe out to lift. We're going to go for 6, 5, final 4, can be done with no towel. 3, 2, with or without the towel, and then a last time, and relax. Alrighty, you don't need your resistance band or your towel. Then I'm going to move into a 4-point kneeling position. Now you've got to decide here how much gap to have between your hand and your knee, okay? You can just about do this from forearms, but I wouldn't really recommend it because you don't really end up with enough space. So if you don't like being on your wrists here, I would suggest you go maybe wrists onto a wall or wrists onto the edge of like a sofa or something like that, so that you're slightly elevated and less pressure, but you can still get a good range of movement. So from there, we don't want to dip into the back, so I want you to imagine you're tucking your tailbone, you're scooping your belly slightly up from the floor, but you're not quite rounding into a cat stretch. Okay, so just take your time to find position, belly slightly lifted, you can feel your core switching on. The fingertips are spread wide. That applies whether you're on the floor or maybe against a wall or against your sofa or whatever. And then we're going to steady, just tap shoulders. Let me come facing forwards as well. And the goal with this, it might seem a really simple exercise, but the goal is to stabilize through your shoulders, through your back, through your core. Remember, belly slightly lifted up. Now if you go too fast with this, what we often see is people starting to rock with it. And that's what you want to avoid. So it's almost more of a core exercise than it is what you're doing with your arms. Now if that's too easy, you would move your knees back slightly, but keep your weight forward over your wrists. But you can just choose. You're still keeping that feeling of drawing the belly up. And we have 5, take a breath. 4, take a breath. 3, breathe out, take a breath. 2, and 1. And then just want you to come back into a quick child's pose or any comfortable stretch. Might just be your circle of wrists. And then, in your own time, we're going to lie completely flat. You could use your towel or a cushion to support the forehead. Here, I want you to think of picking up the belly away from the floor, but without kind of squeezing into your bum. So your bum is relaxed. The palms of the hands are going to face in towards your thighs. I want you to imagine you're trying to reach your toes. So you're almost making your arms as long as possible, not so tense that they cause pain, okay? Shoulder blades draw down, take a breath. You're going to squeeze the shoulder blades, almost pulling them back in together. Fingertips reach towards toes, they're not going to get very far. And relax. Does not need to be big. Remember, you're not squeezing your bum, you're pulling your belly up. Shoulder blades squeeze together, reach, breathe out. Head down, breathe in. We've just got 6. 5. And if this is too strong, don't do the lift, just do the reach of the arms. 3. 2. And then last one coming up here. And relax. So I just want you to maybe bring your forehead onto your hands. You might want to give your pelvis, your lower back a little rock there. And we're just going to stay here a moment for some deep breaths. So in your own time, inhale, feel the ribcage expand out to the side. And exhale, release. 2 more. Last one. And then in your own time, either rolling onto the side first if that's more comfortable for you, or bringing yourself up this way, whatever feels better for you. They're going to be back upright, okay? Kneeling, seated, on a seat if you prefer. Come back to that tall back position. I'm just going to then roll the shoulders gently as you exhale. So I think you're keeping some length into your spine, we're not collapsed down, we're still tall. Take a breath. Just the shoulders, don't make it too big. Then keep in that tall position, we're just going to turn to the right. The left hand's going to come across towards the right leg. So left hand, right leg. Right hand is somewhere next to you or behind you. And you're just going to twist into that as much as you need until you can feel a bit of a rotational pull through the mid-back. Again, subluxing ribs, slipping rib syndrome. Please just make this a little bit smaller. It's not really that safe to go all the way around here. Hold for 3, 2, 1. Same the other side. So right hand, left leg, left hand wherever you like. Don't force it round into too big of a twist if it doesn't feel good. Still trying to take those deep breaths. And I'm just going to move. It's similar to what we did before actually, but this time we're just going to interlock the fingers behind. Draw the shoulders down away from the ears. The ribs might purposely stick out at this point because we're going to just push the chest forward slightly. Again, if you're hypermobile, be very careful at this point because what you don't want to do is fling the arms right up or overextend into your elbows, okay? So even if you can't really feel much of a stretch, which we often see that hypermobile people can't really feel the stretches the same as if you're not hypermobile, but don't worry if you can't. We're just going to go from there. If it feels okay and you're not prone to vertigo or POTS, dizziness, you can always take your vision up slightly as well. Then from there, just relaxing the arms by the side of the body, we're going to allow the vision. You might want to close your eyes at this point. Again, please be very careful if you're prone to dizziness. I'm going to drop the chin towards the chest. Eyes can be closed if you want to. And then we're just really slowly going to sway the head side to side as if you're looking towards one armpit and then the other armpit. Keeping the chin nodded. Just for 2. Last one, we're then going to bring the chin towards the centre of the chest and we're really slowly vision back upright. So if you had your eyes closed, you can open them here. Just going to stretch. Arms overhead. Be careful your shoulders don't come up towards your ears. If it feels okay, you could interlock the fingers there or grab the kind of palms together. And then we're just going to add a little sway side to side. Just as we did earlier, just be careful the hips don't kind of come right out to the side there. So you're nice and steady from your waist down. Just going to take 2. And 1. And then in your own time, just relaxing from there. As a final option, I'm going to sit back one last time. You might want to bring, if you're in a kneeling position, you might want to bring your knees a little bit wider. Again, be careful with hypermobile. You don't want your knees kind of out into a split. So crawling it here. You could always lean on your sofa for this, or if you're near a wall. And we're just quite long in the arms. Be careful you don't overextend into the elbows. Find that stretch for the upper back. You're just going to stay here for 5. Breathe in deeply. 4, 3, 2, and on 1, just crawling yourself slowly upright, and you are all finished for today.